Welcome everybody to Aspire's pre-summit on Fertility Counts. My name is Claire Boothroyd, I'm the president, and present face-to-face are members of Aspire board, and I welcome those of you who are online. We also have two very committed speakers who are here face-to-face, and I thank them for their time, and they are Homan Tuong and Kamthorn Pruksananonda from Vietnam and Thailand, respectively. I don't want to waste a lot of time with the introductions because this is a panel discussion and we really want to brainstorm and get a think tank going on where we go with this. But before we do that, we're going to hear some presentations from a number of speakers, the first of whom is Natasha Brauman from Merck, and she's been a big part of the development of Fertility Counts. And so I'm not going to introduce her biography. Those of you who are in the room have it in writing, and those of you who are online will have it on the website. So without further ado, I'd like Natasha, please, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Natasha Brauman. I am with Merck. Before I begin my presentation, I just wanted to extend my gratitude to Claire Boothroyd and Aspire for taking on this issue and for organizing this. I really look forward to speaking to you about fertility counts today. My aim in speaking to you about this is to brief you about what is Fertility Counts all about, what is going on with this initiative, and maybe to entice some of you to get involved or to start thinking about this issue, to begin thinking about what might make sense in your countries or in your sphere of activity. I believe that fertility professionals have a unique perspective on this topic, and we would love to have more of you lend your voices and your thoughts to this topic. Now, what is the topic? The topic is declining fertility rates in Asia Pacific and the resulting societal challenges, the economic challenges that come with that. Fertility Counts is an initiative that looks at what are the reasons behind declining fertility rates, what are the impacts of it, and then as a next step, what do we do about it? We want to bring together knowledge, experts, smart voices on this topic to start thinking about what are the root causes of declining fertility rates, what does it mean for societies, and what do we do about it to build family-friendly societies. Now, this is not entirely about, there's a threshold of fertility rates that we must achieve. It's more about how do we build societies that are family-friendly, that are welcoming to children, to families, and that create an environment in which people are able to have children. So we want to start that conversation about solutions. We want to provide resources. We want to provide research and facts. So let's start with the core topic of declining fertility rates. Why should we care? Why is this a critical issue in our minds? Our societies are fundamentally going to change. The rate of fertility is already at a point where it is inevitable that our societies will change drastically. It is just a question of how much will they change. And the way that many countries in Asia Pacific are currently steering, the consequences over the next few decades will be quite dire. There's an economic impact, there's a societal impact, there is an impact to all the health and social systems that a country might have. The changing demographic balance of a country is putting a lot of pressure on social safety nets, on the healthcare system, and it will eventually also, wind its way into economic growth and falling living standards as fewer people are of productive age. On the right of this slide, I've summarized very, very briefly some key statistics from a 2020 Lancet article looking at countries around the globe and how their growth will proceed until the end of the century. And quite a few countries will have their population shrink by more than half. And a lot of these are in Asia. I will point out that this is a 2020 article. It is based on 2016 data. And some of these predictions, look quite stark. Japan's population will shrink by more than half. South Korea will shrink by more than half. And imagine a society that is currently 52 million and will only have 26 million at the end of the century. And already, even though this article is only a few years old, the data shows that this process is already happening quicker than the prediction in this Lancet article. What I'm trying to say is that this process is this process is already underway. It is already affecting countries quite drastically. And I think the best case of that is unfortunately Japan. Japan shows where low birth rates can lead a country. And it is an example for other countries to look at of what fate to avoid, frankly. Japan is now the oldest society in the world. Labor shortages are already impacting the economy. And it is causing a catch-22, where on one hand, the society needs to take care of its old population, and is constricting the funding that's available for families to produce a family-friendly society and encourage people to have more children. On the right, this comes from an analysis that was produced by Economist Impact, and they modeled for us projections for different economic scenarios for Japan, depending on different fertility rate scenarios. So the baseline is the dark blue, the total fertility rate of 1.3 that Japan currently has. And it shows the old age dependency ratio. So how many old people above 65 need to be taken care of by the working population. And you can see that today, Japan already has a old age dependency ratio of about, 45, meaning 45 old people are being taken care of by 100 working age people. And this will, under the baseline scenario, increase to 70 in the next couple of years. With different fertility rate scenarios, the impact of this will change over the coming decades. But still, given Japan's low fertility rates over the last few decades, even if they now achieve a fertility rate of 2.1, which I frankly don't know how they would do that, even if they achieved 2.1, still the old age dependency ratio would continue to rise for the next couple of years, and only then would begin to improve. And even then it would be higher at the end of the century than it currently is. So Japan is in a bit of a pickle. And other countries are looking at this and probably, hopefully, looking at how do they avoid the same scenario. It is to the extent that in January of last year, the Prime Minister of Japan did say publicly that Japan is on the brink of not being able to function as a society because of its falling birth rate. So long story short, this is an issue that is increasingly in the public attention, that is obviously more in the public attention in some countries that have experienced low fertility rates for longer and are already seeing the dire effects, but it's something that other countries should start paying attention to as well, we believe. And so it's something that even countries that you don't think of as demographically challenged right now need to start taking seriously for the future, to begin putting in place measures for family-friendly societies, for ways to look critically at this issue within their own countries. So what does that mean for Fertility Counts? Fertility Counts, we aim to provide research and data. We want to be evidence-driven about this topic. We want to generate insights. We want to elevate expert voices to this conversation. I will present to you one of the reports that is the cornerstone Fertility Counts right now in just a moment. But please know that this is not the only piece of research that Fertility Counts revolves around. More research will be coming this year and in the future to really build a robust base of knowledge for this initiative. We want to have discussions and not sort of just going around in circles around the same issues. We really want to have purpose-driven discussions about what are the facts, what can we do about them. At the same time, we also want to raise attention to this issue. We want to draw attention to this issue. So we're also trying to be visible, create awareness, be perhaps a little bit glossy in the kind of materials that we produce so that they're appealing and that they equip those who want to talk about this issue with materials that they can take to discussions, to stakeholders, to say, hey, we believe this issue is important. Can we start talking about it? So, for example, just as a baseline, there's a website, fertilitycounts.com, which I encourage you to check out, which will aggregate a lot of these materials. There's already infographics, there will be videos coming out, there's a social media campaign. So we're trying to balance being very evidence-led and being communicative about this issue. Now, I mentioned that there's a key cornerstone topic, right, or report right now, and that is the Fertility Policy Toolkit, produced by Economist Impact, looking at which policies actually work. Because a lot of countries have tried different policies to boost fertility rates or to support families, to become more family friendly. But really, a lot of that is guesswork, whether it's baby bonuses or tax incentives or childcare provisions or, having a certain number of, if a family reaches a certain size, they get a refrigerator. I mean, there are these sorts of initiatives that sometimes you have to laugh at, and sometimes they're really quite large and expensive. But a lot of it is educated guesses on the part of policymakers about what might have an impact. I've been in this space for quite a few years, and really there's no good overview of what works, what actually has impact. So this is the first time that this exists, because Economist Impact did that. They put this together and they assess which policy measures have a positive impact on fertility rates and on the economy. So for the first time, there's a menu of options for policymakers where they don't have to reinvent the wheel, but they can look at existing policies in other countries, how they've worked, and whether they might have positive impact in their own country. Unfortunately, I don't have time to take you through all the details of this toolkit, but I highly encourage you to go to fertilitycounts.com and download the report. There's summaries there as well, but really the full report gives you the complete picture. And yes, there's a handy table that summarizes it. So if you look at nothing else, then please look at that table. I will take you through that right now. So the table, and I realize this is very small, especially for those of you in the room. There's no expectation that you will be able to read all of this. I just want to give you the overview that the Fertility Policy Toolkit looks at different policy areas. 4 different policy areas were assessed to look at, what are their impacts. The first one's childcare. So childcare availability and childcare affordability. Second one is workplace policies, meaning things like maternity leave or flexible work policies. Third, financial incentives. So that's baby bonuses, tax incentives, or these sorts of financial transfer to families. And the fourth one is assisted reproduction. So looking at public funding of IVF and the like. So those are the 4 broad policy areas that were assessed. And then they were rated on the evidence of impact. There is 5 stars as the highest rating. And I will be honest, no policy areas received 5 stars because that would require evidence of significant long-term increase in total fertility rate for a wide segment of the population from high-quality experimental studies. So no policy measure reached that threshold. Perhaps I will add here, this is because of the evidence level. Simply, this is not an area of research that is as well studied as we would like. So this is perhaps one of the reasons. Nonetheless, quite a few policy areas were found to have positive impact. Childcare, workplace policies, and financial and assisted reproduction, they all had positive impact, though to different degrees. And really the most impactful policies were in the area of increasing childcare availability and improving maternity leave. Those were the ones that reached 4 stars. But please, I encourage you to read the full report. I cannot do justice in this short presentation. The report also looks at the evidence of economic benefits. And this is an interesting one when we come to how do we talk about it, because a lot of these policies are not just nice for families. They're not just cushy giveaways to families. There's really hard economic evidence behind them. Beyond the topic of perhaps impacting fertility rates, there's also positive economic impacts. And so, again, childcare comes out as really being one that has positive economic impact because there's a higher participation in the labor force for mothers, which in turn boosts the economy. There's tax contributions and so forth. Unfortunately, again, I don't have time to do this justice, and I would love to have that conversation in more detail with all of you about how these different segments interlink and how policy about this can be shaped and driven. Now, as I said, Fertility Counts is about bringing together knowledge for impact. And so it is an umbrella initiative that brings together regional knowledge and content and provides evidence. And then it is about having the conversation locally, because none of these policies are implemented on a regional level. Every country has its own policies. In fact, even perhaps sub-regions within a country will have their own policies when it comes to family-friendly schemes and so forth. So we want to have conversations with policymakers, academics, NGOs, civil society, patients, journalists, whoever, to start having the conversation about what needs to happen in your country to perhaps move closer to a family-friendly society that allows people to have the children that they want to have. So far, Fertility Counts has been launched in Australia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam, and we'll hear from 3 of those countries in the following presentations. It's also been integrated into ongoing conversations about low birth rates in South Korea and Taiwan, because those are 2 countries where policymakers are already, more advanced in taking action, but they're not doing all that we think they should be. So there's an additional level of, bringing fertility counts to those countries as well to boost. As I said, the Fertility Toolkit that I just talked about in more detail is a cornerstone of what we're taking now to policymakers to say, look at this, we believe action is needed on this, but more research is coming next year. So, and a big one of that will be the fertility scorecard. Again, Economist Impact is putting this together. They're basing themselves on the toolkit. The toolkit right now looks at which family-friendly policies are useful and possible. And then the fertility scorecard will look at which ones are currently being implemented in the region, how well are they being implemented, and what are the gaps. So it's a benchmarking report to show where do countries do well, where do countries have room for improvement. It's kind of a traffic light system, red, yellow, green, to show where things are where there's room for improvement for certain countries. And this report, which I'm very excited about, will be coming in May of this year. So more evidence to come, more talking points to come around this issue. Before I close, I just want to say, obviously, Asia Pacific is a vastly diverse region. Countries are at different stages of the demographic transition, and we have to take that into account as part of Fertility Counts. The awareness of low birth rates as a policy issue is also very different. If you think about policymakers in your countries, there are quite a few countries where the officials that are in senior positions right now have spent their whole careers really thinking about birth rates as something to control and to lower. And controlling the population has been a key policy in quite a few countries within the region. And I'm not saying they've not had good success with that. And there have been really very important population policies around lowering teenage pregnancies, lowering the prevalence of STDs, lowering unwanted pregnancies. And we're not calling into questions any of those successes. I'm just pointing out that quite a few people in senior positions of decision making are still, they've come from a mindset of lowering birth rates and are now having to shift gears mentally. So the messaging around fertility counts is not the same in every country, because not every country is in the same position or doesn't have the same outlook. So it's about finding common ground with existing policy priorities, with other policy areas, whether it's boosting women's workforce participation or boosting health awareness, boosting the awareness around declining fertility with age. All of those are issues that we might want to hook into here and give more air to. Does this, I want to leave you with one more thought here, and that is this slide, which, yes, most of these countries are not from Asia Pacific, but I find this incredibly interesting. This shows the ideal number of children that people would like to have in various countries. In gray, that is the ideal number of children that people would like to have. And in blue, you can see the number of children they end up having. People have fewer children than they say they want to. And that is universal around the world. This is the gap that we want to address. Because this is the gap between what people want and what they end up doing because of various constraints. And those of us who have children understand this, that you want a child, you have a child, and then you realize having children and raising them well is actually very difficult. And so, your decision about the next one, maybe the third one, is constrained by the factors around you, by your environment. And I will point out the gap between what people want and what people do differs by country. And those countries like Sweden or France that invest a lot in childcare and other family measures have a much smaller gap than other countries. And so I don't know where your country would fall here, because I don't have a lot of that data, unfortunately, for Asia. But I would say, where does your country fall? What is the gap between what people want and what they end up doing? And that is the critical piece that I would like to address in our conversations about what can we do. So I will close. We are on this journey for Fertility Counts, and we're really looking for people to work with us, to discuss with us, and have dialogues about family-friendly solutions across the region. So thank you so much, and I look forward to our discussion today.
Thank you very much, Natasha. We're going to ask you to, thank you for stopping to share your screen, because without further ado, I'm going to ask Cam Thorne Proxenonalda to speak to us. You've only got the microphone and no lectern today.
All right. Thank you, Claire, for inviting me to share in these very important sessions of the Fertility Count. I'm very happy and always happy to come here to Singapore. This is a lovely country. Today, I'm going to share with you the fertility awareness. Can I have a pointer, please? The fertility awareness Thailand experience. Thank you. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, do you realize that the world will never be the same in a very short future? Well, this is the overview of my talk today. Let's go to the second slide to save the time. Well, if you look at the world, the real world data here, you will see that, this one. You will see that in 2023, the total fertility rate around the world has already declined, especially in this area, the Asia Pacific area. If you look at the color code, the green one is the approximately 2 to 2.2, which is the replacement level according to the World Bank. But look at the region, in our region, we can see that mostly has dropped beyond that, especially China, Thailand, Singapore, and not mentioned about the Taiwan and Korea. There's a lot of things that has been changed, and if we are not doing anything, we're gonna face a big problem. Let's focus. It's not working. Can you please move the slide for me? This one is not working. Look specifically in our region here. Thailand, going from 60 years ago, parallel with Singapore, we enjoy successful of family planning and contraception. The blue arrow is the year that we campaigned a lot for the contraception, and we enjoy the success rate of the reducing of the fertility rate. But you can see that comparing with our colleagues, our other country in the region, the fertility rate has started to decline very rapidly until we realize that this is too far. On the green area, we change another policy that we probably has to slow down the contraceptions or family planning model and have to start thinking about something else to slow down the decline. The green area here and the purple here is Singapore. So Thailand and Singapore is going the same way toward the low fertility. The Japan is actually already low from the beginning, but still in the same level as Thailand. Let's move to another. If you look at the Thailand profile, you will see that from the far left there, Thailand will reach the peak of the population this year. Then after that, after this year, they start decline. So in a few years, maybe you go to Thailand, you will never see Thai people. Maybe somebody else in Thailand, because we are not have enough population. If you look at the second graph, mostly of the people now is maybe like 25 to 64. And there's a lot of increasing of the more than 65 has rapidly increased. So we are now going to the aging society. Comparing to the third one, that is the birth rate and death rate. The intersection from expecting is this next year, but actually from the real world data is already going to this point the past year, 2023. So this means that we are absolutely moving to the aging society faster than what we expect. This is a big problem. And if you look at the TFR, we comparing with the other Asian colleagues, Thailand is below the levels of that TFR. Let's move to another slide, please. The newest data, Thailand total fertility rate is 1.08, which is far below the expecting and faster than what we expect. Next, please. Next, please. Professor Dr. Keur Wongwunsin from Chulalongkorn University has tried the model by using computer analysis, the population data analysis. And he showed that if we are not doing anything, then we are going to have the total fertility rate decline to 0.7 in a few years. And this means that the population or the population in Thailand will start going down very rapidly from the point of the 2023 forward. Let's look at the real data. Current situation, we look at the death rate or the birth rate of the Thai people. You can see that in 2019, birth is about 700,000 baby a year. But 2022 is just only 500,000. And the death rate is still somewhat 595 or almost 600. This means that we are already minus population. So it's faster than all the predicting graph from the United Nations has shown. What is the cost? The Chulalongkorn University has started to doing the survey. What is the cost of the fertility decline? What happened to the society? Firstly, the first thing first, people are talking about the socio-economics. Yes, there's a cost of living, cost of raising child, and also because of the seeking for higher education and the work competitiveness. They don't want to lose any chance of competing with other colleagues or the male counterpart. So socio-economic is one of the first things first that they realize. Secondly is the attitude. They're not much talking about this, but it is the real story. Because nowadays, the young generation do not care about family building. They think that for their own is okay. They don't want to think about having baby or fulfill the family life. We call it the sing family or a single income, no kid, or DINK, double income, no kid. This is the thing that people like to consider. They don't care about the family building, and mostly they delay marriage. They don't want to marry. They just live for their own. Another thing is the awareness. We found that the big problem is we do not realize that we have a problem. This is a big thing. And that happened not only to the doctors, to the patient, but also to the government policy maker. Sometimes they don't think that this is a problem. They do not foresee the effect after this. And the last one is the health, because the infertility, the age-related condition, like the ovarian reserve and many things, has been changed from time to time, and nobody really talking about it. Let's look at the surveys from Chulalongkorn University. You will see that the attitude, previously they're talking about double income but no kid. I mean, both marry but do not care about the having baby, and this may also include some of the infertility patient, the pink one. It's not changed much though, but the one that would like to stay single, do not want to marry, is the green one, is increasing rapidly. So these two groups altogether is more than 30 or close to 40% of the population right now. This is the attitude change. Let's look at the Thailand population pyramid, a study from Chulalongkorn University as well. On the upper there, that is 2020, you can see that the pyramid is look like a stool. But not too long though, 2020, it looked like a bottle and then it looked like a vase. So the dependency ratios in the part 2000 is about 7.1 to 1. In present, this year, it's about 3.6 to 1. but in the future, we will decline to 1.8 to 1. The study from Professor Dr. Gur Wongbunsin, he put all the data into the computer software generate and calculation. If we are not do anything, this slide is used to convince the politicians. If we are not do anything, the population pyramid of Thailand will be look like this, and the population in Thailand will drop from 66 million to only 33 million. So half of us will not be there. And what happened? We're going to have an aging society, increase from 8 to 18 million. Wow, we're going to have a lot of old people. This story or lesson learned is from Japan already. And the dependency ratio is increasing. And healthcare budget going to be also increasing, and we're going to pay for the cost. How about the workforce? The workforce will drop from 64 to only 14 million. This is the taxpayer and labor. And this is one that will generate the productivity to the country. But it's dropped from 46 to only 14. How about the children? Will drop from 10 to only 1 million. So anything that related to the child business gonna be in the big problem. Let's look at this summary so that you can see that labor intensive and agricultural sector like in Thailand, that's gonna be a real impact. The domestic mass market, anything that produce mass production would be disturbed or disrupt. The kid-related business like school and everything, including the hospital, the pediatricians, and other clothes, food may be disrupted. And the taxpayer, we're going to pay the tax because there is no productivity. Then we have no money. And the military, if anything happened to the country, we will fight for the country. That is a problem. So we are approaching aging society faster than what we expect. And definitely the GDP or gross domestic product will decline. So let's do something. We look at the recommendation from CDC, the policy planning step. First thing first, in the middle is the stakeholder engagement and education. And then we're gonna go through the problem identification, policy analysis strategy, and policy enactment and policy implementation. This is the core that we use. Let's see. We start with the stakeholder engagement and education. Even though there's a lot of stakeholders that are involved in the fertility problem, one thing that we can do as a medical doctor is to equip the medical doctor personnel with all the knowledge necessary for policy promotion of the fertility. The Ministry of Public Health has started what we call the quick win. Start to try to make awareness to the doctor, to all the doctors. And from the expecting 900 public hospital in Thailand, they are successfully to open up the fertility promotion clinic in the public hospital. So that is 98.7% in these 3 months that launching. You can see that all the meeting in Bangkok or in the rural area. Actually, the event like this happen in many parts of the country. About the public-private sector supporting this, like the Merck, Solono, and others, public and private business partner, we have introducing the Fertility Counts. This photo, the gentleman in the gray shirt is the Deputy Minister of Public Health who present at the Fertility Counts. This to make others, public and private, awareness that this issue is very important. And this is a discussion that is going on very well. The meeting is EU Asian Business Council. About the other stakeholder engagement, we also use the social media influencer and a celebrity Valentine. Okay, the Siam Paragon. Okay, we would like to emphasize that for like Valentine, the long-term commitment is also important and should be encouraged. One thing that I would like to emphasize is the national economic and social development also look at this issue. Thailand has special character. We are not in this industrialized country. Our GDP is mainly 70% is coming from agriculture and service sector, not industrial sector, not like in Vietnam, not like in Singapore. We are very special because mostly it's the service sector and the agricultural. And we have the blueprint, 13 national economics and social development plan. We also study the recommendation from the Economist, the Fertility Policy Practice Toolkit of the APAC region. And we also consider the recommendation from APEC Smart Family. This is a project from the APEC government and the Johns Hopkins University also issues some of the recommendation. Let's look at this. This is a comparable of all the suggestion and recommendation. The blueprint is the national plan, long-term plan from 2022 to 2037 government long-term plan. The second one is the Johns Hopkins APEC Smart Family. The third one is the Economist Fertility Toolkit, and the fourth one is the WHO SDG. Actually, mostly similar. You can see if it's grouping into three categories. It's like knowledge, attitude, family planning, family building, ecosystem, and the accessible to fertility service. All four category, all four of the major study coming similarly. In Thailand, during the meeting of the United Nations in New York, Prime Minister announced that the country will move forward the Sustainable Development Goal. For those OBGYN doctors like us, we think that we also have to do something for the country. We start with the guideline so that we can have something to measure and to follow. That's the Red Book is the guideline, especially for the fertility promotion with respect to 3 levels. And the guideline, and we do the research, evidence-based research, systematic review, SWOT analysis, gap analysis, health economics, and the most important is the budget impact analysis and implementary research. This research is going on, some already done, but many of this is still on the way to go. And Ministry of Public Health, Dr. Chulanan, announced that because there's a lot of stakeholders, public, private, and not only the health minister, it has to be the finance minister, labor minister, and others. So it has to be pushed to the national agenda. This is the national agenda planning that they are going to push this so that all the budget can be located and have the responsible expansions. And we use this as the logo of the campaign. You can notice that is the fish that Thai tradition will hang on the baby cot. This is a symbol of having baby and happy family. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Cam Thorne. Very exciting, and of course we're all going to have a panel discussion with Natasha and Cam Thorne. But without further ado, I'd like to link to our next speaker, Dr. Nashua Yaakob, and I do apologise.
Okay, salam, hello, and good day to everyone. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation to the Aspire board for including me to be in this program today. Okay, this is the outline of my presentation. And as I am a reproductive medicine specialist working within an MOH public hospital, I would like to emphasize that I am not here today as an official representative of MOH Malaysia to this conversation. And as Aspire member, I am very motivated in building fertility awareness, bridging knowledge, and increasing access to fertility medicine. And I really hope today I would be able to motivate dear colleagues within the reproductive infertility fraternity and beyond in raising conversation on fertility. Okay, here I would like to begin with illustrating briefly about the fertility services within the Ministry of Health in Malaysia. Almost all MOH specialist hospitals currently provide basic fertility services, including screening for the couple, basic investigations, checking their ovulation status, tubal patency check, and semen analysis. We do provide basic treatments such as ovulation induction and follicles tracking, and most hospitals provide up to IUI. The MOH has set up 5 regional fertility centers with full range of standard fertility services, including assisted reproductive technologies. These are geographically located across different regions of the Peninsular Malaysia and in Borneo. And I am in one of the 5 public hospitals within the Ministry of Health, offering subsidized IVF for the couple's first child, whereby the subsidy is being given to the hospital and patient only pay a substantial reduction of the total cost. Overall, patient would be paying not more than 5,000 Malaysian ringgit, which is about 1,600 Singaporean dollars. And all the couples need to fulfill the MOH eligibility criteria to avail the service. If you're taking across the nation, apart from Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Higher Education, university hospitals do provide ART treatments as well, and the Ministry of Women and Family Affairs through their National Family Planning Developmental Board has a long-standing history of provision of IVF services. But most of the IVF centers actually in the private sectors. Up to date is estimated to be roughly about 60 centers. And we have our first IVF baby born at government hospital back in 2001. So we have come a long way in providing public IVF services to the patients here. As we keep on seeing this data, and again, the global fertility rate has decreased significantly alongside world total fertility rate reduction. Malaysia is not spared as well. We have dropped down from 2.3 in 2010 to a historical low of 1.6 last year. And this is the figure of patients that we are seeing seeking treatment in our hospital over the years at the top right corner. And we are not seeing any reductions except slightly during the pandemic in 2021. And the number keep on increasing and increasing. As a fertility specialist working in a government hospital, this actually has become an alarming thing to us. And it has gotten the media attention as well in view of fertility in men and women continues to decline. The impact of infertility has made it actually a public health issue. And as a reproductive specialist, as an OBGYN, we need to get more into conversation about this. We are seeing biological causes of infertility, and it has becoming more and more frequent. And despite the prevalence of infertility, there is still a significant knowledge gap and awareness among the population. WHO has recognized this as a disease that requires early attention. So when speaking and conversing about this, I had the opportunity to engage with various fraternities, talking into why the falling fertility rates actually has public health concern and also to the aging population. The low birth rates can lead to disproportionate elderly population, straining further on the existing healthcare and support systems. Understanding this actually is essential for future planning and policy development of any country. As we could see in our day-to-day work as fertility healthcare provider, not only biological factors actually influencing fertility, changing of societal attitudes toward marriage and childbearing definitely play a role. Malaysia is among countries in Asia Pacific where the childbearing occurs within the marriage, at least most of it. So delaying marriage would definitely delay childbearing as well. And these delays actually being confounded as well by economic factors such as rising living costs and career-oriented priorities. Additionally, with advancements in education, healthcare, and family planning resources actually impact individuals' reproductive choices. As one can say, the availability of fertility treatment options and getting more and more advanced with automations and artificial intelligence and genetics, why would fertility still having its own challenges? Why infertility is still on the rise? As we move or we started our training, we used to think that the ART is the answer to infertility. As it is a crucial role in providing additional means to achieve a pregnancy. It is essential in reversing fertility rate. However, the availability of ART raises questions to why total fertility rate is still reducing. More research and educations are needed because we need to explore further why despite we have more and more ART centers, we are still facing declining total fertility rate. I am pleased to be a part of a research program by the Economist Impact. Throughout these conversations and we have lots of online discussions, we are able to reflect ourselves as compared to our neighboring countries. And we found that we are similar in many ways, and some of the solutions would be different for the similar problems. Allow me to share the journey of conception. As fertility specialists, as fertility healthcare providers, this is what we know, the journey of conception. We know that the windows is not open all the time. We know the biological clocks keep on ticking. Understanding these realities actually helps making informed choices. But how about individuals? How about the people out there? And also, when the need of fertility gets further delayed due to advancements, careers, and increasing rate of divorces, and this actually poses its own challenges. Apart from biological factors and socio-economics, we need to think of the world that we live in as well. Malaysia is a rapidly developing nation. It has significant urbanization, industrialization with climate change, pollution, and change in lifestyles and qualities of the air. This actually has to be taken into the equation. So addressing all that, now we need to think of infertility beyond our fraternity, beyond the OBGYN, beyond obstetrics and gynecology. It is a major public health concern. And we need to start talking and communicate that to our public health colleagues as well. It has now become the second most common reason for women to visit their doctors after pregnancy. And despite the availability of medical information, one could say that there still remains a significant awareness gap in the general public. I had a short survey done a few years back looking into this. Interestingly, we compared the fertility awareness among the women here, the public lay women, versus our healthcare worker. And we found that there are similar gaps in the quality of fertility awareness. We tend to underestimate the effect of age on fertility and somewhat overestimate the effectiveness of fertility treatment. As healthcare providers, we tend to be able to delivering quality healthcare services, but it may not be the same to fertility, especially when there are a lot of other confounding factors that we need to get into discussion about it in other fraternities as well. We need to get more people to be talking about it, even at the earlier phase of life, not when infertility occurs, maybe earlier public education. Fertility awareness is about understanding the knowledge and the awareness so that they can make actually informed choices about when and how to have children. Society should provide balanced education by highlighting limited window of conception, then in the importance of considering pregnancy desires. We had opportunity to engage with education's fraternity about this, and I think we have an agreement that there are definitely gaps in fertility education. We grew from a nation that has a high fertility rate and unplanned pregnancies, whereby the emphasis on contraception overlooks the importance of educating individuals about baby planning. Family planning should go beyond preventing pregnancies, and it should include knowledge about fertility, reproductive abilities. I think we have a duty for our society to provide a balanced education, ensuring the individuals are informed about the limited window of conception. True empowerment comes from comprehensive understanding of fertility, not just contraceptions. In our day-to-day work, we do see patients who come in at a much later phase in their infertility, and we may not be able to offer much solution. Recently, we had an opportunity to engage in various ministries, educations, family planning, family development, into conversation about the falling fertility rates in Malaysia. And it is an honor to share with them. At that time, I did a bit of sharing about public education on fertility and the emphasizing on balanced education that should cover both contraception and fertility, so that we have a responsibility to offer accessible and accurate information. And going beyond that, we need to engage and reach out to the communities via social media, through community programs, to talk more into this, to get more awareness that everyone has a part to play, not just in our fraternity alone. So getting more conversation, even among the fertility specialists, sharing of informations and trying to get, what would work for our patients, to get more supports for them to have a more effective treatment. And as I take more messages, I think fertility matters to infertility care providers. We need to have more awareness. We need to use the kits that we have, the knowledge, the data, and to get into a more balanced family building in conceptions versus contraceptions. I think we need to reverse the reversible causes of infertility, and we need to have a more fertility-friendly attitude and policies, and to all stakeholders, employers, communities, primary care providers, so that they could disseminate this awareness and knowledge to the primary care holders and policymakers and government authorities. I think I would end here, and I look forward to the discussions later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jakob. That spoke to us. Of course, most of us in the room are medical, so you've spoken to us, but we're going to switch now and hear from Professor Tainai Pang, who is an Associate Professor in the Faculty of Economics and Administration at the University of Malaya. So please check out his bio both online and on your sheets of paper. Welcome, Professor.
Okay, let me begin by thanking the Aspire board for inviting me to share my thoughts on the issues of low fertility in Malaysia. And I also like to thank Natasha for recommending me to the board. Okay. Well, the demographic of Malaysia has transformed dramatically during the last 7 decades. So owing to the high fertility in the past, the family planning program was launched in 1966 with the establishment of the National Family Planning Board, NFPB, under the Prime Minister Department. So one of the objectives then was to reduce the number of births to slow down the rate of population growth. However, in the mid-1980s, the program thrust shifted from family planning to family development, following the announcement of a new population policy to achieve 70 million population by the year 2001 to support industrialization. And NFPB was then renamed as National Population and Family Development Board, and it was shifted from the PM's department to the Ministry of Unity and Social Development in 1990, and later placed under the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development since 2001. So as you can see, Malaysia has transformed from anti-natalist policy to pro-natalist policy since the mid-1980s. Okay, a little bit about the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development. So the ministry is responsible for determining the policies and direction to achieve the goals of social welfare and empowerment of various groups, such as children, women, family, community, older people, the poor, and people with disabilities. And it's also has a role to ensure to promote gender equality, family development, and a caring society. Now, the various policies under the mandate of the women ministries include these policies: national social policy, national policy on women, national social welfare policy, national policy for older persons, and national family policy. So these are the departments under the ministry, one of which is the National Population and Family Development Board, responsible for all matters pertaining to population and family development. So the others are Department of Women's Development, Social Welfare Department, okay, and Social Institute of Malaysia and Councillor Board. Now, the roles and functions of NPFDB in population and fertility, these include the assisting planners and program managers to integrate population and family development into sectoral development program planning, and facilitate policymakers to consider population and family development factors in the formulation of national development policies and strategies. Okay, NPFDB chairs the Advisory Coordinating Committee on Reproductive Health, ACCRH, while the Ministry of Health is the main agency providing family planning services. So NPFDB is also responsible to promote research and advocacy on population matters. So these are the board members of NPFDB. They are represented by officials from the key ministries, and also 3 members from NGOs, including the university, including myself. The board meets at least 4 times a year. So if you're interested to know more, you can look at the portal of the NPFDB here. Okay, for the members of ACCRH, the main one is the Ministry of Health. Various divisions are represented, and of course the Women Ministry, Ministry of Youth and Sport, Education, Higher Education, Ministry of Communication, and Department of Islamic Development. Federation of Reproductive Health Malaysia, Obstetrical and Gynecological Society of Malaysia, Academy of Family Physicians of Malaysia, and University of Malaysia. That's where I came in. Well, although the government has de-emphasized family planning, it continued to provide family planning service delivery for reproductive health. However, IC on family planning was discontinued following the shift in program trust in the 1980s. So since the 1980s, the contraceptive prevalence rate stagnated at around 53% for all methods and 35.7% for other methods. So it's one of the lower CPR in this region. At the same time, the rising age at marriage and non-marriage contributed significantly to the continuing fertility decline. In fact, it's one of the major factors in fertility decline in Malaysia. And of course, there's been a changing norm in favor of small family size. The current generation, most of them desire to have only 1 or 2 children, So that also is a reason for the fertility decline. So as you can see, there's a paradox of the low contraceptive use and low fertility. We still cannot understand why when family planning rate is so low and fertility also remains so low. I mean, even though there are other factors like rising age and marriage. So this is a trend of in TMR by ethnic group. So if you look at the middle line, the one in gray color, so the total fertility rate of Malaysia has dropped, continue to decline from replacement level in around 2012 to just 1.6 today. And if you can see that the total fertility rate for the Malays and other indigenous groups, they also decline, but at a more gradual pace, such that they are still at about the replacement level today. But if you look at the Chinese and the Indian group, the one in red, the Chinese, it has gone down to 0.8, I think lower than Singapore even, and the Indians are 1.1. Okay. So these are number of births. If we look at the total number of births, well, there was a reduction between 1991 and 2023 from 111,527 to 144,279. But in terms of the ethnic group, okay, for the Bumiputra, which is the Malay and other indigenous group, the total remained at around 240,000 over the last 3 decades. Although we could see there is a decline of about 50,000 births between 2015 and 2023. As for the Chinese and Indian, you could see a very sharp decline. Islam, the Chinese from 102,732 to only 40,249. The Indians, 35,282 to 17,139. So could see there's an ethnic group. So that was reflected in the TMR. Now, based on the median population projection by the United Nations, Malaysia will reach the population of Malaysia will peak at around 42 million by around 2060, and thereafter it will continue to it will shrink. So you could see that the population pyramid, there's a shift from the younger population to the older age population over the years. So by 2050, we could see that Malaysia is very much like a country that is characterized by older population. Even today, you could see that it's more at the center, right in the middle age. So Malaysia is enjoying the demographic dividend due to the more rapid increase in the working age population. However, this is going to end quite soon, let's say in 10-20 years time, because the older age population is growing very rapidly. As you can see, by around 2044, Malaysia will be an aged nation when about 15% of our population will be aged 60 and over. So so the window of opportunity is closing. And if you see the the younger age group is declining very sharply from 45% in 1970 now to only 13%. So there's a very major shift. So this age structural shift has reduced potential support ratios substantially. And by 2070, about 2% working will have to support an older person. Okay, and there's also a corresponding rise in the dependency ratio. So if you look at the green bar on top, green line, so the dependency ratio will begin to increase now, 20 somethings, and it will continue to rise to about 51% by 2050. What are the consequences of low fertility? Now, in the mid-1980s, government called for review of the policy as it was held that sustained low fertility will pose challenges to the economic vitality, labor supply and family system, and old age care and support. So that time there was also emerging labor shortage. Malaysia is heavily dependent on foreign workers. So despite the government's various incentives such as extending maternity leave up to the 5th child and the emphasis on family planning, fertility continued to decline to a low level. Malaysia is fully aware of the experience of other countries experiencing low fertility where they are having crisis now. So we are hoping to avoid falling into the low fertility trap. Okay, various strategic plan studies were carried out to monitor the demographic situation. So in 2009, I was involved in this study and we make a recommendation very much the same as like today, what was presented by Natasha just now, talking about maternity leave, paternity leave, flexible working hours, childcare facility. The same thing, we talk about this as early as 2009. And it was repeated in 2017. We emphasized that we need to maintain the TFR at replacement level and also emphasizing childcare option and also I think the government provide a 10% tax rebate to companies for the cost of setting up the childcare facilities. So efforts also been made to promote work-life balance and flexible working hours are being piloted in some government departments. This is to make to help working mothers to cope with career and childbearing. Now, there are various incentives to boost fertility. For example, an income tax exemption limit for childcare allowance is now increased from 2,000 ringgit to 3,000 ringgit in the 2024 budget. And also women are also given some tax incentives. And these benefits are now extended to 2027. Some state government have also taken steps to introduce initiatives to increase fertility rates in the forms of baby bonus and savings for education at various stages as early as kindergarten. Okay, Malaysia participated actively at the recently concluded Asia Pacific Population Conference, and in a country report submitted to ESCAP, we highlighted that TFR had plummeted from 4 children per woman in 1980 to 1.6. So we are looking forward to learn from the experience of other countries. Many countries talk about their problems and we are taking note of those problems they face and the strategies that they have taken. So in November last year, we had the national conference and the main emphasis was on low fertility. And we had a primary session with 5 papers on changing fertility scenario in Malaysia, implication of fertility decline in Malaysia, Fertility Policy and Practices, a toolkit for the Asia Pacific region, presented by Emily. And the falling fertility, how does it impact on the economy, by Shaha, who is a parliamentarian, he's an MP from the unity government. And falling fertility rate in Malaysia, medical and health perspective by Nashaha. So these are the resolution adopted. At the conference, we also had the roundtable discussions on low fertility and the toolkits, and the recommendations, the resolution adopted was pretty much the same as what was presented by Natasha just now. But we have added a few things complementary. We emphasize the importance of support from parents, family, and community in childcare, affordable housing, and promote the value of children. So after the conference, there were 2 meetings, the MPFVB board meeting and ACCRH meeting, which focused on discussing the issues of low fertility, and I was part of those in the conversation. And MPFVB is currently preparing a cabinet paper to be presented to the government. They are also thinking about white paper that will be submitted to our government. And currently we are writing 10 articles on low fertility to be sent to Botanical Journal of Social Science and Humanities for publications. And there will be more research and advocacy activities to support informed decision making. Okay, there are many platforms where we can leverage fertility counts for informed policy decision. This includes the National Council for Women and Family, where I'm also a member of that council, and I hope to raise these pertinent issues of low fertility at that council meeting. We can also go to the parliamentary groups, those parliamentarians who are interested in fertility issues, and of course the AFPPD, the Asian Forum of Parliamentarians for Population and Development. I think it's a very good platform for us to raise it. We can learn from the other countries. So, and Malaysia also will be presenting papers at the upcoming ICPD 30 and the 57th session of the UN Commission on Population and Development, where we will also highlight issues and incentive, the initiative that we have taken to deal with the low fertility. And the government of Malaysia would invite stakeholders to the dialogues for annual budgets and Malaysia plans, where we can voice our views. And these are some of the platforms that we can share our thinking and put forth our recommendations. And of that, there has been an increase in the publicities on issues of low fertility, more interview and more reporting in the mass media and also social media, which is a good sign that people are becoming more aware of the issues of low fertility. And of course, we are also stepping out our efforts to advocate the adoption of the Fertility Toolkit after the conference. And I think we are going to have another roundtable discussion around May this year. So at the national conference, NPFDB and Merck actually signed an MOU to exchange expertise and research findings on population and reproductive health, to provide support to relevant stakeholders in formulating policy proposals and effective strategies on reproductive health. So this MOU is part of the Fertility Counts, a regional platform established by Merck to address socio-economic and societal challenges associated with low birth rates in the Asia-Pacific region. With that, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Peng. That was a wonderful presentation. So we're going to move now to Homan Tuong, and he's going to tell us about what has been happening in Vietnam. So this is a face-to-face, so the microphone is yours.
I want to aspire to let me have an opportunity to share our story in Vietnam today, and I also would like to thank Merck for supporting me to be here today. May I have the laser point? So I would like to share what our situation now in Vietnam, and the second is that how fertility counts can help us to improve the system recently. Yeah, this is the fertility situation in Vietnam. It is driven largely by the government policies to encourage reducing fertility rate, population control, and reduce childbirth. So we have been quite successfully. We could bring down the total fertility rate from 64 about 1 in 2006, and we are quite successfully to rate at replacement rate during the past 20 years. And we are very successful in that, and the figure now is quite okay. That is why we keep our population policies for years, and the government last time didn't have much plan to change it because we were quite happy with that. So with that kind of success, we can still maintain the population growth of 1% per year. So our population is still increasing gradually recent years. but it start to kind of more stable now, and it is expected to decline in a couple of years because government now recognize that the fertility rate has started to decline faster recently. This is our population pyramid change from 1999 to 2009 and 2019. So we are in kind of golden population, that we have a good percentage of labor force in our population pyramid. But it seems that we started to change in the near future. And as we all know, when it started to change, to decline, it will decline very fast. So it is a time for us to intervene. And if we intervene earlier, we will can get rid of the bad effect of the fertility decline. And we try to lengthen the golden population for the better economy development. But this is the general fertility rate, but actually in the country we have a problem of fertility rate. It is not the same in every area in the country. In the southern area, it seems that we're facing similar problem with our neighboring countries in the south, but in the north it's quite different. So we have, although we have good total fertility rate is about 2.1, but 40% of our population in the north area have high fertility rate, and the government still want to control it to reduce the childbirth. And there are some area the total fertility rate is higher than 4. Only about 20% of our population in the central area have good fertility rate. It's more or less 2.2 or 2.1. So actually we only have about 20% of our population have good fertility rate. And for almost 40% of our population in the south of Vietnam, the fertility rate already started to decline. And the fertility rate in Ho Chi Minh City is the lowest in the country, is now only 1.3. And it has been declined very fast recently. So we have no problem. So in the past, the government just applied one population policy for the whole country. So they could not do the same thing in the future, because the problem is very complicated and difficult to solve. This is the Vietnam population forecast. The blue one is the young population and the red one is the old population. It's the same. If we would not intervene now, try to intervene earlier, so problem will appear in maybe in 15 years, where we have a lot of older people and less number of young population. And it's estimated that the ratio will increase by 3 times in 50 years. So this is our kind of long way. During more than 50 years, the population policy from 1961 to 75, this family planning want to control the population, reduce childbirth. Same thing happened from 1978 to 1991. And when at around 2000, we recognized that we can control the birth rate, and we have more policy for improved reproductive health. And we have the same thing with from 2001 to 2015. And at this, we enjoy during time this time, because we have a good fertility rate and we can maintain the population growth about 1% per year. So that is the policy now, is population and development. The government now think how to improve our system and how to want to forecast what happen next to have better intervention. These are the factors that we think that can affect our fertility rate, the medical biological factors. A study about more than 10 years ago estimate that the infertility rate in Vietnam is 8%, but we think that it should be higher now. This is similar to other countries. The young people now try to delay marriage and having children. So, and the rate of infertility increase. The social factor, the workplace cultures do not support for parenthood and work-life balance. So people want to have spend more time for their own. And family value change. Young people now, they want to have big families, they don't have to have many children. In the past, the family would like to have 3 to 4 children. Now the young generation, they only want to have 1 or 2, and there's increasing rates of family that they don't want to have babies. The economic pressure, the cost for housing and childcare increasing very fast recently with the development of the country, and the income is compared with the cost of raising children. Even the income of the family increased, but the cost to raise a child increased much faster than the increase of the income of the family. And also they have some challenge in medical challenge that increase the rate of infertility, and also the cost for infertility treatment is also increased. And this is the availability of IVF centers in Vietnam. We have now 52 IVF centers, but in Vietnam, IVF center have to be in hospital. It cannot stand independently. It has to be in an established hospital. So this is the 411 is the number of hospitals that can host an IVF centers, but we only have 52. And if we compare the number of IVF center per million population is quite low. And if the IVF center located mostly in big city, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, you see the pink part here. 25 IVF center in Hanoi and surrounding area, and 12 IVF center in Ho Chi Minh and surrounding area. The other part of the country have very limited access for IVF treatment. And this is very difficult and a lot of requirement to open an IVF centers. You need to have a hospital, and the minimum requirement for an IVF center set by the Ministry of Health is very high, and it's quite expensive to establish one IVF center. So this is you see, we divide the country into 6 areas from north to south. The population are about the same, the 3 regions, north, central, and south. But the GDP per capita is highest in the southern part and is lowest in the central part. The total fertility rate is lowest in the central or the southern part of the country, while in the north and the central area is higher. IVF center, the distribution of IVF centers in different areas is mostly in the north, where fertility rate is still high, but it's lower in the south, where fertility rate is low. So it is the number of IVF centers per million people in different areas. So we found that the one who have lowest fertility rate and big population in the south have low number of IVF centers. So we have to change that and to improve, but it's difficult because it's not easy to open IVF center in Vietnam. And another big issues, because we have more than 50 years working on control population, control childbirth. So every service that is not support to control the childbirth will not covered by social health insurance. So look at number 6. If in fertility service, when an infertile couple, they come to a hospital to do fertility checkups, workups, this is not covered by insurance. For example, if the infertile couple have to do a blood test, it's similar to the blood test when other people do, but it's not covered by health insurance. When the patient is labeled infertile, it's not covered at all. Even this, if they have to have a laparoscopy, if there are gynecological problem, it's covered by health insurance. But this is not an infertile couple, they're not covered by insurance. So it creates a burden, a very severe burden on the infertile couple financially and also psychologically. They think that the government don't want them to have baby, because this is very stressful for those. And this is what we also would like to change. And fortunately, the end of this year and next year, the law of social insurance changed, and it's opened an opportunity for us to intervene. And fertility count came just the right time, that we can have some kind of advocacy to change the system to reduce the burden for our infertile couples in Vietnam. And this is we expect it to include those kind of services will be covered by health insurance, and was not covered in the past. Sorry. So that we fertility counts, and we in Vietnam recognize our issues, and we try to start something to have some advocacy effect to change that and to improve that. Next slide, please. So we try to improve based on our issue to raise the awareness of fertility decline. Even we are now quite okay now, but we have to recognize that we are on the way to have fertility decline. We have good fertility rate, but the gap between region and the country is a big issue, and it's very difficult to solve. And we have a big burden to our infertile couples when we want to have diagnosis and treatment. This is the stakeholder that fertility count work with us to identify those who can help us to change the issues or to prepare the community and the government to change. We have people from the government, people from expert in care, people from association and NGOs and local think tanks. And actually, fertility counts have spent years to contact and to invite those who we come together to organize a conference to discuss about the current issues of fertility decline in Vietnam. And fertility count support the Vietnamese Association, the federal and the Department of Population and the Ministry of Health to organize a meeting in Hanoi last November. We have up to 180 participants, and we have all big guys over there: the government, the society, the Department of Population and Family Planning, Ministry of Health, Ministry of insurance, social issues, and Ministry of Law. We have everyone there and a lot of KOL, and we can invite a lot of people from the public media, the television, the newspaper, magazine, join us for this meeting. This was a very successful meeting. Then we can raise all of the issues that I mentioned, and we already have some kind of agreement and consensus that we have to start to do something. And at the end of the meeting, that the people have a consensus that we should have to change the law. And this is just the right time, because this year we will, the Parliament will change, have some amend, they try to amend the law of social insurance and also the law of population. So it's just the meeting, it just come at the right time, and it's organized an opportunity for all people, stakeholders to meet before we can finalize what we would like to have to change in the law, and that will happen in the next few years. So we'll change the law of population, and we have to try to change the population policies in Vietnam. And it will be the first time in history Vietnam will have different population strategy in different areas of the country. Last time we had just had one population strategy, but now the government decided to have at least 3 different strategies in 2 different areas. This is very difficult and very sensitive politically in Vietnam, but the government, this first time they decided to do so. And we're also convinced that now we have to change the law of social insurance to cover at least examination and checkup and workup fees for the infertile couple, and we could do that. It reduces a great burden to our infertile couples financially and psychologically. So this was a very successful meeting. It's just the right time, and then we can do a lot. And all of the KOL, the policy, important policy maker have expressed their thought, and they already promised to decide to do something, and we always said that we have to change, and it is the right time for us to change. So in summary, Vietnam has successfully reduced fertility rate and maintained replacement level fertility for nearly 2 decades. But our fertility rate vary in different areas. It's not stable, and fertility rates have declined rapidly in the south, the southern part of the country, and very different from the north of the country. And the accessibility and affordability of fertility services are big issues in our community now. And with the first start of Fertility Counts in Vietnam, we start the right time and we gather the right people. So we have we start now. We decided we already decided to meet together to discuss and at the end we would like to change. We successful to raise the awareness of population decline in Vietnam. In the time our population growth is still positive, we already can raise the awareness of population decline. After the meeting, there are more than 60 television, newspaper, internet, public media, they release a lot of information about the meeting, and we raise the awareness of the population about the community about the population decline. And we can do a very great thing for our infertile couple that now they maybe in 2004 or 2024 or 25, the new law of social insurance will apply, and our infertile couple can be covered the fees of examination, workup, and checkup before they can have treatment. Except the IVF treatment is too expensive for the government to cover it. So, but this is just a relief to our patient financially and psychologically. Well, thank you for your listening.
What a wonderful presentation. So we've had 5 fantastic presentations today, so we're now going to open this up for discussion. So do we have any questions from the floor? Neil, please begin.
That was absolutely wonderful, and congratulations to all of the panel, both online and here in the room. Celia Johnson from New Zealand. I've just got, I suppose I've got a couple of questions about the causes of declining fertility that are just not 100% clear in my mind. And the first relates to something that John Aitken mentioned at his excellent presentation in Adelaide at the Aspire meeting. And he drew a parallel, a little bit different to what we've heard here today, between the issue of countries becoming affluent and a certain affluence level being reached, and that being a particular trigger for fertility, the real decline of fertility rates. Now, we've heard a bit more today about the pressures of poverty and, you know, the high prices of housing and childcare, etc., as being a particular trigger. What's the truth of that, and what is the evidence underpinning those what seem to be opposing arguments?
Who would like to tackle that one first, please? Natasha. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot first, and then obviously for the country views, I'll defer to the experts from the panel. I would say there's a distinction here between the horizon. John Aitken was looking at, you know, decades, and obviously in that progress, you have vast societal change. You have the availability of contraception, you have family planning programs, you have a complete shift in women's participation in the workforce, and yes, the rise of the middle class and great economic development in the region and prosperity that comes with it. So I think that's a very valid point, that a huge part of the decline of fertility rate over the last 6 to 7 decades was due to prosperity, was women spending more time in education, women entering the workforce. That all contributed to where we are today. And the question is that still a factor? I would say to some extent, yes, in the sense that people want to maintain their standard of living. And if you want to maintain your standard of living in cities in Asia Pacific today, you have high costs of accommodation, high cost of living, which means you need 2 incomes to be able to maintain the sort of living standard you might want, especially for more educated couples, which then means you have 2 people in work, which brings you into the whole field of, does the workforce accommodate having children? In many cases, the answer is unfortunately not. And so you enter this whole dynamic of childcare, of workplace policies, and then, yes, financial considerations as well, because of the high cost of living, the high cost of accommodation. So I think whereas John Aitken was making the point about the past and the last few decades of rising wealth and rising prosperity, maintaining that prosperity for couples right now making the decision for children is a critical factor. But I'll defer for the details to the other panelists.
Professor Payne, would you like to make a comment? You alluded to the paradox of low contraceptive use and low fertility in your talk, which intrigued me. And I guess the other question that might be important in answering this causation question is that you have alluded to the ethnic differences in your population, and have you got any insights as to why the Chinese population in particular had a much more rapid rate of fall?
Okay, maybe I would like to touch a little bit on the proximate determinants of fertility, which is direct determinants. So there are 4 main proximate determinants: marriage, contraception, abortion, and breastfeeding. So in the case of Malaysia, I think the age of marriage has gone up significantly, especially among the Chinese and the better educated. something like almost like 27, 28 years. So if they enter marriage so late and they desire to terminate childbearing by age 32 or 33, I mean, they have very short span of reproductive lifespan for them to have babies. So I think marriage is one of the reason, and also increasingly more people are opting out of marriage. They are not marrying at all. So especially among the Chinese and better educated, and also the Indians. So that explains why. And also maybe it's a little bit sensitive. For the Chinese in Malaysia, you have to be more on your own. For example, education, you may not get the privileges to enter university or courses, to take up courses of your own choice. So the cost of having children is much higher among the Chinese. And also I could attribute a little bit to religion as well. So as you can see, Malays and they are Muslim. So I think religion itself may also have some effects. Whereas the Chinese, they are mostly Buddhist and Confucianism, which do not have any inhibition on fertility control. So that's a reason why. And also in terms of intergenerational relationship, I could see that there's a breakdown of intergenerational closeness. Parental control or guidance is getting weaker, especially among the better educated and those who are Chinese, ethnic Chinese. So in the past, the parents used to take the lead. If the children are not married, they will be taking the steps to arrange marriage and things like that. But these days, it's all own choice. So the parental role is eroded. So that's partly to blame. And also, I must say, there's also increasing infertility. So I think not just in Malaysia, in most countries, infertility has been on the rise. Now, the paradox of low contraceptive use and low fertility, this is something that we are still puzzled. We are still finding ways to try to explain it, and we're hoping that the ongoing national survey, the national survey which will be conducted this year, we will try to uncover some of those puzzles, maybe to some qualitative interview rather than focusing just on quantitative survey. So we may need to ask more detailed questions as to why if they are not practicing and yet not having children, what are the causes? And so I think these are very important. And the good thing is, I think the government is taking note, is already taking interest in these issues, and hopefully more can be done, right, to promote to make childbearing easier, more compatible with the woman's career. I don't know whether I answer some all the thing that you would like to see. But I must say that as in many other population, the lower income group tend to have more children. So if you're talking about income as a constraint, it's irony that the poor have more children than those who can afford. So that's why a lot of things are own choice. People choose not to have children; they opt to not to have children. But I must also emphasize that the rising cost of living is definitely of concern as well. People are worried as to whether they have enough money to raise their children or not, and to provide them with good education. Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Made a particular comment about causation in the Thai population. Would you like to address that?
The question from News is very interesting, and I think if you look at the Thailand situation, there's a dramatic shift in the demographic, demographic dividends. There's a lot of people that growing up into the working force. That is the major that we concern today. Is now influencing by the social media and the logistic improvement So they are not working in the rural for agriculture anymore. They are moving to other city, to other place to do the service industry. As I showed you the graph before, that a major income of the country is probably not the agriculture anymore. And this group has to migrate to rent a house, to rent an apartment or something else, just for working. And if they have family, that's a big problem. Or even if they have children, that's a very, very big problem. So they decide not to, even though they are not rich. In Thailand, we always say that our country is going into the aging, but not into the reaching. So we go too fast to the aging society while still not rich yet, because people are still working to earn their living. And that's probably similar to many other Asian countries as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tuong, do you want to make a comment about causation?
No, I think we don't have the same situation in Thailand. When the more urbanized the city, the cost of living, raising children, housing increase, and it prevents people from having a child. And because the certain part of Vietnam is faster urbanization, so it's a lot of people moving. And if we are living in big city, usually we live with our parents-in-law, so we can have support from our parents-in-law or parents to raise our children. But those who move to big city to work, and this is a big group of people, they cannot find support from their people, relative or parent. So it's even more difficult for them to have baby. So that is why the more urbanized the city in Asia, the lower fertility rate and the big issues of social issues.
Naris.
I would like to share. I agree with Neil that we would like to know the cause first, because we can solve the problem exactly. And I agree with Natasha, with also Kamthorn, that most of the people in Asia normally they move from the rural area to urban area, and this and struggle for the living, because the living expense is very high, so they don't want to have a baby. Normally they will build up the family by collect the money quite a long time, sometimes 40. Just think about the have a children. So to approach this problem is maybe by the support by the government, give the incentive, and the important one is for the healthcare, we need to screening earlier than they want. And the other group that I want to say that the decline burden is not the same as infertility, is not the same. The infertility is the other problem that this problem you can solve by the how to get the access, easy access to them, by the cost, reduce the cost, or by the access by the place is close to them. Let's maybe solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. You can keep that. You can give to the next speaker. Any other questions from the floor? Tuong,
I want to add the social issues that prevent the young people to get married earlier and have baby earlier will increase the infertility rate, because they will have baby in the later age. They have problem.
So that's a bit of a paradox. You're saying if they get married earlier and have a baby earlier, they'll have more infertility. Is that what you said? Yeah. Tell me, how does that work? Because they have their babies. They postpone their marriage and their having baby because of young families in big city, and they don't have support, and they don't have enough capital to settle down. So if they delay their childbearing age to earlier, it's easier for them to get have problem when they want to have baby. Yes, I mean, Tuong, your story is really an impressive almost a success story. How did you get that meeting put together so quickly? Was it who drove it? Was it Merck? Was it your ONG? Was it your politicians? Tell us how it all came to fruition.
It's just the right time. Actually, recently, during the past few years, the government already recognized that we may have problem in the future, even we are now quite okay. And people in the Ministry of Health also recognize that the problem of delay childbearing age, and we also in the professional society we also recognize that. And we fortunately we have vice minister who previous prime minister. He's an he now is the president of ONG society, and he also have influence on the politician and good KOLs, and he's working with people in Fertility Counts, and we work together around, and we people in the Department of Population have the same idea, and because we all know each other, and that is it's easier for us to contact and give our own influence to invite people to get together, and we have a big population.
So there was a personal relationship between a doctor who understood the issues medically and had political connections, and that was a reciprocated value. Wow. I just don't know if all countries can do that. Natasha, you please come in.
Yeah, just 2 points on the previous comment about choice versus infertility. Completely agree. On one hand, the choice against having a child is not the same as facing infertility, but this choice is not always an informed one. And this is where we come back to awareness about infertility or fertility decline with age, which I believe that most couples that make the choice to defer childbearing don't fully understand the biological realities. And so I would argue that most couples don't say, we never want to have kids. Most of them say, we don't want to have kids right now for various reasons, because it is hard. And so they put off the decision because it is hard until they then come to a point where they face the infertility problem. Now, obviously, this is a huge generalization. It does not apply to every single couple in every single country across the region. But I think this is quite a common story, that they say not now because we're still busy building our careers. We need 2 incomes. It's complicated with our jobs. We don't have family nearby. All these complicating factors that young couples face across the region that make it difficult to say now is the right time for a child. So that's where the importance of fertility awareness comes back in. I think that's where medical professionals have a role to play in building that awareness as well. And then just a comment about Vietnam, just to add a little bit of context about how this event came to be. Dr. Tuong has said exactly what the relationships were, and that this was the right time. Just for other members of the audience saying, oh, I would quite like to see something like this in my country as well, just to give you a little bit additional color of how this happened. The first step really was to socialize the Fertility Counts idea and initiatives with different stakeholders. So we didn't jump into straight away organizing the event, but really it was about talking about this initiative, talking about Fertility Counts with the relevant people, getting them interested. And yes, absolutely, that's where the personal relationships came in. That's where the fact that policymakers were already interested in talking about this, that's where it came in. But first it was about elevating Fertility Counts with the right people. And then you could draw them in to say, hey, we would like to organize an event. Would you be available? And really building the event around the people and their availabilities and their schedules to make sure that we had the right people in the room. And I have to say it was wildly successful. We didn't expected to be quite so big. We had anticipated, maybe 80 people, sort of as an optimistic guess, and we ended up having 180 people. So, it was just the stars aligned really in the most fantastic way. But there was a lot of work beforehand to draw people in and make sure that they were interested in the initiatives and willing to engage and speak on this issue. So as a pre-step of how to build this up and build the relationships, I just wanted to contribute that in case members of the audience are thinking of doing the same in their countries.
Thank you, Natasha. I'd just like to pick up on your first comment and ask Dr. Jakob to respond, because I was very heartily empowered by her putting value on fertility awareness. Now, if we take a big picture, how do we introduce this to widespread primary care physicians, university curricula? How do you think we begin to do that?
Yeah, thank you, that's both right. I believe that, as fertility specialists, as the provider of fertility treatment, we are the one who are closest to the patients. We are aware of their struggles and challenges. Hence, we are also aware of their lack of awareness. And we keep on hearing that, they said they wish they knew this before. They wish that, 10 years ago, they could have made, a different decisions in life. And perhaps I think this is what we need to do, to go out there, to go beyond our fraternity, actually. I think when talking among ourselves, we do aware of this. But our primary care colleagues, our family medicine colleagues, or even public health specialists may not be very much aware. Even when they themselves suffer from infertility, they would seek treatment with us, surprisingly to find out that, they are infertility that could not be reversed. I think what we need to do, we need to get, into more talking initiative to speak to the relevant fraternities, maybe to getting opportunities to speak at their events or their conferences, to spread the awareness that it's not just us here. We are actually at the end of the equation, where we are seeing more and more people with infertility. Perhaps at the preventive care, we could engage, with our colleagues in the primary healthcare, maybe with the education, with the schools, and to get into more campaigns and awareness, so that, our younger population, younger generations grow up thinking that not only contraception actually essential for quality family building, so is fertility education. I think that's what, even in Malaysia as well, we need to get this further forward, rather than just a few individuals' initiatives. It should be at a larger scale. But I think we need to be the movers and the shakers as well to get this across the board. And also getting influencers or even social medias, where a lot of young people are attaching themselves to. I think it is another good avenue as well, like what Thailand has successfully doing as well. I think that can be emulated by other countries as well. Okay.
Any comments on the floor on that, Neil?
May I add up a little bit? I totally agree with you. Since the primary healthcare also involve and contribute a lot in the fertility awareness issue. That is why we try to include them in the beginning. As you may see in my presentation, that the Ministry of Public Health has organized the fertility promotion clinic in 900 public hospitals in Thailand. And now it's already done in about 98% success. So it's not just the IVF at the end, but screening and giving advice, and maybe also screening or treatment of the common infertility problem like ovulations or hormonal imbalance, or even lifestyle modification can also increase some chance. And from our research, of the Royal Thai College, this may contribute to about 50% of the patient. I mean, the remaining of only 50% that require a further step of treatment to the secondary or provincial hospital, and maybe less than % that require the tertiary care hospital for the treatment. So we are not just look at the assisted reproduction, but please include the primary care doctor or family doctor as well.
So you unrolled that very quickly, according to your slide. You know, you had a 98% coverage within a 3-month period. What was the public uptake of attendance at those clinics like, and what sort of patients went there? Can you just share some of
Well, we don't have the total number correction yet, but we visit, we're going to have the team to visit some of the hospital to evaluate the result. But initial data coming out very good response. Some of the patients, they may just reluctant whether or not this is require any further advice or treatment. They can come and talk. Maybe they should have some treatment or not, or is it probably what they can plan ahead if they want to bargaining between work-life balance. And that is the advice from the medical team. And we also equip the medical personnel with all the knowledge and the treatment protocol that has been designed by the Royal Thai College of OBGYN, which is divided into 3 categories. At the primary care level, what you should do, and at the secondary hospital or the tertiary care. So we already plan so that we can standardize. And the next step is the evaluation, definitely, but it's too fast to conclude now.
So renaming family planning, or making family planning clinics family planning, not family prevention clinics. That's a new one. Any comments from the floor? Neil?
I mean, I think that's exactly right, that the biggest impact is going to be made through awareness, fertility awareness, lifestyle, promoting people to have better natural fertility earlier on. Simple things like Lepidol. I'm always banging on about that, but those who know me know about Lepidol HSG and its impact on improving natural fertility. But I think, you know, a lot of these programs, we are seeing IVF now being funded where it's not in settings where it's not previously been funded, and that is good, and it helps with easing the burden of infertility in those groups. And look, we've got a room full of those involved in infertility treatment here. I do wonder whether that is a little bit like, in a lot of cases, closing the stable door after the horse has bolted, because the efficiency and the effectiveness of such treatments in our infertility population is not that good. It's those, they're leaving it too late. And I wonder if we should actually be focusing a little bit more on the women who are in the sweet spot of their fertility lifetime, I suppose, the under 30s, and starting to promote in a more wholesale way in our region egg freezing for those who are not in the position to start their families at that point, to at least give them the option later on. And Dr. Jakob, you spoke very pertinently about the regret that a lot of women and couples express later on. This could be a way through making that publicly funded that we could help a lot more, I think, than purely funding the infertility treatment program.
Can I just make a comment in response to that, Neil? Of course, ASPIRE is the Asia Pacific Initiative on Reproduction, and one of our founding fathers, Bruno Lunenfeld, a few years ago reminded us that we are not an IVF society. We are about reproduction, and that's why this topic really does fall within our remit. I know we tend to be looking at it at the other end of it, just like Dr. Jakob at the infertility, but that doesn't mean that we don't have some kind of social responsibility and advocacy responsibility for trying to reduce the problem of certainly age-related and deferral-related infertility, but also actually engaging with policymakers, because as Tuong has clearly shown, that there is potential for the doctor's voice to be heard by policymakers if we put it in place. And I think your story from Thailand is also that doctors are listened to in these matters. And I think we do have a place, even though we spend a lot of our life dealing with the tail end of it.
May I add to this point a bit? We always emphasize that even though there's many ways to deal with the fertility problem, but the only thing that you can measure the return on investment clearly is the fertility treatment, because you can measure how many babies you bring up into the world with how much money you spend. The other way is very important also, like childcare, like workforce. Everything is important. We cannot omit them. Yeah. Every single issue is very important, but the only one that you can measure the return on investment is our job. So let's start doing something.
Yeah, I think I just want to get Natasha to address that question actually that you've raised, because there seems to be in the studies, by default there has to be a long lag phase between when you put the intervention in place and when you see the outcome, because particularly with socio-political change, forget about the IVF, let's take that out of the equation, because the Fertility Toolkit had 3 socio-political changes. So you put those in place, they must have a significant lag phase to actually changing the way a couple or a person make their decisions, and then your outcome is the baby. Now, over that long period of time, many other factors can be operative. And of course, and where I'm going with this, I want you to address that first, Natasha, if you don't mind. But then the second question I'd really like you to address, if you can, is following on from a conversation I had with PC Wong, who was again instrumental in the creation of this document, is that I said, well, look, PC, it looks like all your interventions in Singapore haven't done anything, because your total fertility rate is whatever it is, 1.1, 1.2, to which he replied, well, if we hadn't done those interventions, it would probably be 0.6. So, you know, how do we firstly, how do we sort of try to be evidence-based with these socio-political interventions? And secondly, Natasha, do you think that, you know, the trajectory, you know, it's sort of like an amelioration of a trajectory, a downward trajectory?
Sure. Thank you for those questions. The lag phase, and maybe this joins on to the discussion that we had just now. People make choices on the basis of their current situation, and it's sort of in the availability of all the information they have at that time. If that situation changes, they reevaluate. And we do see, I will preface this with saying that this is not an area that is as well studied and as well documented as we would like. And a lot of the evidence that we use comes from countries in Europe, which have a lot more history of putting in place these family-friendly policies, these support measures. We just have more evidence to draw on there, but even there, it's not as great as we would like. However, we can see that in cases where policies have changed to increase maternity leave, increase job flexibility, increase paid parental leave, you could see the impact of that fairly quickly. I'm not talking about, you know, a year, but within 5 years, you could definitely see the impact of increased birth rates in those countries. So it's not something that takes decades. What does take longer is sort of creating a holistic, society-wide atmosphere of family friendliness. And by that, I mean different policies interlocking to make sense. So that's not just isolated policies, but things that really work together to create a society that supports couples to have children, that supports the raising of those children beyond their birth. Because sort of maternity leave and parental leave is one thing, but then those children need to be educated, those children need to be housed, they need to be fed. Parents understand this. When they make the decision for a child, they look at the longer term, and they don't just say, do I keep my job, you know, once I have the child, but also, will I have a job in 3 years and 5 years when that child goes to kindergarten, when that child goes to school? Those longer term perspectives need to be taken into consideration as well. So long story short, there are some interventions that can have impact in the shorter term, but to build a society that holistically has programs for all of these different aspects probably takes more time. But we need to start somewhere. And if it does take time, we need to start now. We at least need to start putting things in place now for these things to grow and develop and settle in people's minds as well. Let's not forget, these are countries that until fairly recently, at least in people's perception, we're talking about preventing excessive birth, or, you know, had family control programs in place. And so sort of that mind shift also needs to, that mental shift also needs to take place. So in terms of the lag phase, I would say, you know, there's a middle ground, and we probably need to start somewhere.
Just 5 years is a very long time, and for many politicians, 5 years is a very long time as well. But we've drawn a line in the sand there at where we should be looking. Do you want to address the claim that might be made that it hasn't worked, that Singapore hasn't worked, for instance, because their total fertility rate is still falling, but then the counter argument is raised that it would have been worse. Can we unpack that in an evidence-based way?
It's tricky because there's so many confounding variables, and I mean, there's the total fertility rate as one factor. Then there is the aspect of what makes a society livable, and you know, what kind of society do we want to live in, as well. And probably we all would prefer to live in a society that is welcoming to families, that you know, provides the sort of environment where people feel they can have children. But it is difficult to put a number on this, and unfortunately, I don't have data on what Singapore's fertility rate would be like without certain housing policies, without certain subsidies for families. I don't have that data, and it's a gap in the research, absolutely. And so in the absence of that data, we make do with what we have, and we make the best arguments we can. There are countries like South Korea that are currently pumping a lot of money into family-friendly policies, and they're not seeing the results yet because, well, the fertility rate is the lowest in the world. My argument here would be that a lot of these policies are still fairly recent, and they're not addressing some of the very difficult societal dynamics. They're addressing, I wouldn't call it surface, because there's quite extensive policies that they're putting in place, but they're not addressing women's roles in society, in the workplace, the huge gender discrepancies that still exist in the country. And those are very, very difficult issues to tackle. And it's sometimes easier to throw money at something else and hope the problem gets solved that way. So we need to do both. We need to look at, you know, what are some of the drivers. We need to understand the reasons, as one gentleman said earlier in the room. So we need to understand the reasons so we can address them. But we also need to sort of look at specific programs that can be implemented in the short term. Both the societal change and the sort of programmatic needs to probably happen in tandem.
Yeah. Yes, we've got a comment from Neil again, and I think Professor Ping might be keen to talk. He's taking his microphone off, so yes.
I'm also going to ask you a question, Professor Peng, in a moment, so just hold fire for a second, please. I mean, I think a lot of this is an attitudinal thing, isn't it? Because we've heard that 20 years ago, young people wanted to have 3 to 4 children, and now they seem to only, for whatever reason, well, particularly those who are not living in poverty, curiously enough, seem to only want to have 1 to 2 children. Professor Peng, you talked about promoting the value of children. What exactly did you mean by that?
Okay. Well, in the past, people said we have children to take care of us in the old age. But these days, I think things have changed so much. Because children also, they are struggling with their own, cost of living. They are unable to provide the type of support that old parents are looking for. So if people start thinking, look, if I can't depend on my children, what's the point of having them, right? There's a lot of cost and there's no benefit. So I think in terms of cost benefit analysis, and also there's a lot of other alternatives, where you spend your money on this or that, like Gary Becker said, it's a basket of goods, whether you have children or you have something else. You enjoy life, you enjoy traveling or some other things, you pursue your career. So those are many options, many alternatives. Today with modernization, with the borderless world, people are looking broader than before, rather than the traditional values of, depending on children to take care of you. I think that's one. And I also must emphasize the idea of fertility traps. So when the fertility falls to a very low level, it's becoming a pattern, it's becoming a habit or value that it's okay to not to have children and things like that. So it has become accepted norm, So people may point to the type of trap, like in the East Asian society, Japan, Korea, China. Like for instance, China recently they revised the one-child policy to two child, 3, but looks like not much impact also, despite uplifting the one-child policy. Yeah, and I think it's happening across East Asia, and those with Buddhist and Confucianism religion, you will see that all of them are having low fertility in Singapore, Malaysian, Chinese, Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, Japan, Korea. All of them are having more or less the same type of culture. And I think culture does play a role. And we must not underrate the importance of this fertility trap. So after a long time, it become a habit, it become a norm not to have children. Like in the past, if you were not married by a certain age, people say, why you're not married? These days, if we are married, people say, hey, why you jump into marriage so young, or things like that. So the value system has changed so much. And as I said, the intergenerational bond is also weakening. So I think that explains that why people are not opting to have children rather than, like in the case of Gary Becker's basket of goods. You want to have quality children instead of quantity. You want to enjoy life rather than spend your time looking after children and raising them. And after that, there's no return. Okay, I think that could be some explanation.
Any other comment? Go, Natasha.
I just want to add the point that people making decisions about their lives look around them and see what those older or equal to them in age are doing and experiencing. And so if you asked university students who are just entering university now about their wish for children, their decision or their answer to you would be informed about what they have seen others experience. And unfortunately, at the moment, they see young couples struggling if they have children because there's not enough childcare, that the childcare that is available is very expensive. Having children and a career is almost impossible to balance. Educating children well is very expensive. It's a huge undertaking to have children and raise them well. And so it's hard. It's hard for young couples to raise children, and those younger see that. They see the struggle. They see how difficult it is. And they make the decision, do I want that in my life? Do I want to go through that struggle? And increasingly, many of them are saying, well, maybe I'll do it for one child, but I won't have three. So, you're informed by the experiences of your older peers in that sense. And so that is something to address, to make it easier for couples or for families to carry that burden. And I think that will then have ripple-on effects for younger families as well in that experience. As a side note, I sometimes get asked about, have countries reversed the trend? Are there countries that have come back from a low fertility rate? And there are not that many, because it's sort of both in Europe and in Asia, it is more about managing the decline in some sense, but there are cases of policies being implemented, of the right factors of economic progress and workplace policies and family-friendly incentives put in place to reverse a trend. So they do exist, and so this is not a hopeless endeavor. This is not something that is irreversible. It is, we could probably do a separate session on country cases where things have worked in a certain way. I think the Czech Republic is an interesting one. Germany has also managed to come back from 1.3 to now 1.6. So and that 0.3 is a huge difference in fertility rate that we're talking about here. So there are things that can be done. It is not a continuous downward slope. It's a question of finding the right measures, the right balance for each country, what is feasible in local situation, in the local dynamics. Some of these policies that we would be talking about are expensive and are probably not within reach of every country. Others are not that expensive and are just a matter of thoughtful implementation and of realizing that this might be a barrier to people choosing to have children. So it's not necessarily always a huge expense, but some of these measures might be expensive, but others might not.
Natasha, thank you for that. So we're going to look into the Czech Republic and Germany to see what they did that sounds so effective. We might not do that today, though. One thing, I can just ask those who are online, and there are about 36 of you, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat. But could you limit them to questions, not to comments, please, because we do have an expert panel here. I'd just like to see what you think about universities, because, of course, the years that a woman spends at university forming and the foundations of her career are also, for the most part, the years that biologically she should be having children. And whilst many of us in developed areas of the world have good workplace policies, we don't have good university policies and flexible learning opportunities for students at universities. And I just wonder if the panel would like to share any information about that they have come across in their studies. I mean, have you got flexible university training opportunities in Thailand or Vietnam or in Malaysia, or is there any information on that?
This is very interesting. I think we should work on it. It's like university-friendly policy.
Yeah.
Baby-friendly university education.
Baby-friendly university. Wow, that's interesting.
Duong, is there anything going on in Vietnam that you're aware of? You guys are at the cutting edge of it. And Natasha, any information?
So this is an interesting one. I don't have information from a lot of countries. I know that in Germany, the studying aspect is flexible for, you can take parental leave and that sort of thing from your studies. If you want to pursue an academic career, though, the research and working in a university side is notoriously not family friendly. And so while women or couples becoming parents during their university education is possible. If you want to pursue an academic career, that is a challenge.
I guess if there's no other comments about the universities, because I would have sort of think that, you know, three semesters a year, you know, a more flexible offering, ensuring that one course doesn't necessarily have to be done before another, all of those sort of things are going to help students to have babies. But we can unpack that at a later time. What do you think about Japan? What do you think? Is any comments about what Japan is doing? And I think one of our speakers, and it was Camthorne, I think, quoted Mr. Kishida saying that Japan is now on the brink of not being able to function as a society because of the falling birth rate, which is now 1.3, is it, or less? No, it's. Any comments about Japan's actions and that they've announced following that?
Yeah, I don't have comment about Japan, but I read somewhere that 9 colleges in China, they actually provided leave for university people to find their spouses. I don't know whether that works or, you know, it's just a pilot study. But I think it's true that there's segregation of, you know, gender segregation in courses of study. Yeah, where if we are talking about engineering courses, they are mostly male dominated, and females are mostly in the social science. So there's no opportunity to actually mingle around or to get to know each other. And then in the case of, in our study, we also found that white people are not marrying. Now, like in the case of Malaysia, the tertiary enrollment ratio for female is 50%, and for the male is 31%. So there's a gender gap in enrollment. So, and in our society, especially among the Malaysian Chinese, they don't marry downwards. So they have difficulty finding a compatible spouse. You know, for them, they must marry someone of at least the same educational level. So if there's a gender gap in education, that explains a very high proportion of highly educated women remaining single, because they can't find one that they feel that is compatible to them. Okay, I think that's, but I think the case of China is quite interesting. Whether it works or not, maybe there will be more study on that.
May I raise one more issue? As you already mentioned that here in this region, there's a lot of diversity in the population. The workplace policy is probably one of the difficult to manage. For Thailand, Thai people, most of the workforce in women is not in a big enterprise, but actually it's a small or medium enterprise, or many of them own the business. So workplace policy is difficult to manage. And many of them is doing agriculture or even seasonal agriculture. So those may affect, I mean, for like in Western country, the workplace policy may have some benefit. But I just doubt whether this will work in the situation like many in the Southeast Asian country, including Thailand. What is your opinion? What would you recommend?
I think, as Natasha and indeed the Fertility Toolkit states, that there is never going to be one solution for what is, you know, we're so diverse culturally, ethnically, and we have different religious influences, we have different resource settings. I think that's why we have to try to learn from what each of the other countries have done and try to apply it in our setting. Like, can I share a little bit about what I've thought about for Australia? We're a high resource setting. We've had extraordinarily generous funding for assisted reproduction. And so we have the situation where women over 40 are coming in their droves to have ART with very limited success rates. And this is an enormous drain on government money. It would be, I'm sure we could probably put an economic argument that in fact it's better to offer egg freezing in women under 34, probably around 30 to 34 if they had normal oocyte reserve, to try and mitigate that futile treatment at the end of reproductive life that we are funding. So I think that's quite relevant to the Australian setting where there's masses of money poured into ineffective ART. That's one thing I've thought. Now that doesn't speak to settings like you have in Vietnam where all of your ART is funded by the couple. I think so all of the solutions that we find to this universal problem are going to be unique to the settings in which we work. I think that they are different. And I really think it was great that that the Fertility Toolkit, did emphasise that. And of course, I was up in Bangladesh recently talking to the Fertility Toolkit to one of the most densely populated nations on earth. But in fact, it's got such incredible, Bangladeshis have got to be commended for, I don't know if you want to talk to this at all, Maruf, he's in the room here. But Bangladeshis have got a total fertility rate of about 1.9, 1.8, well below replacement, and concurrently have increased their longevity over a 30-year period from 58 at birth to 74, an absolutely phenomenal achievement in public health and in a very short space of time. But they have now moved into that problem, this problem that we've been looking at all afternoon of the changing shape of the age population. But of course, the Bangladeshi government are quite rightly very proud of their control of their fertility. And as Maruf said to me, it's very hard for me to go to the government and say we need to actually encourage people to have more babies. So I don't know if you want to make a comment, Maruf, and I probably will ask PC Wong to make a comment because, of course, he was one of the leading lights in starting for the Fertility Counts program. So.
Okay, thank you so much, Claire. Yeah, as you stated, it was a big problem controlling the population maybe before 20, 30 years. But over the last 5 years, it has been tremendous success in this sector. So the fertility rate has come down to around 1.8 to 1.9. For the last 5 years, the Fertility Society of Bangladesh, we have been trying tremendously with the government that in certain sectors you need to give some funding for the government hospitals. You'll be happy to hear that we don't have any insurance, just like Vietnam. So when people are doing, even if they have their own insurance, when they're doing a total laparoscopic hysterectomy, they are getting the funding. But they are not getting the funding when I'm proceeding for a lap chocolate cystectomy or something like that. So that was a problem. But we could not solve this problem because the funding was not so easy to manage. But the progress was there that over the last 3-4 years, 3 government hospitals, 3 very big government hospitals, they have opened up infertility units. So we have been pursuing, at least you go for the ovulation induction, basic investigations, endoscopy and IUI up to the secondary level fertility. And that would serve nearly 90% of our infertile couple. So that situation is rapidly changing. We already have 3 good centers, and from this 2023, as a society, we are trying to contribute to develop centers in other rural cities in Bangladesh. Already we had this Chittagong Medical College last year, and we are planning to develop 3 centers for this year who will be teaching the local gynecologists about the secondary level infertility. So hopefully it's a lot of change over the last, what we had the attitude of the government 5 years back. I think it's much positive now.
And look, the fertility promotion clinic that Camthorne spoke about is probably a relatively cheap intervention, potentially to reduce infertility long term, so that you can make an economic argument for avoiding infertility and its treatment and those bills in the future, that a fertility promotion clinic may have a place in a country such as yours. I don't know what you think about that. I mean,
yeah, and not only that, another interesting thing is that the number of people looking for fertility treatment over the last couple of years is increasing rapidly. So the industry is now interested. Now we have already 2 companies who are producing their own injectable gonadotropin. So these are good things for us, because just before 5 years back, we had to import these things from the neighboring countries. That would increase the cost. So I think the market size is rapidly increasing, and in just last year, 5-6 new IVF centers have opened up in 1 year. So that's a good news for us. And we are trying to give the message that not IVF is only the treatment. There are different methods of treatment, and a lot of people can be served by this procedure. So I think there has been a lot of changes, and as I can see from the situation of other countries, it's nearly the same. People are having lower fertility rate in the urban areas, and maybe more people living in rural areas. It's difficult to control their population. And the main problem, I work in a medical college for many years. The problem is my own students who are female, those who are good, those who are pursuing their postgraduate studies and their careers, they are not at all interested to take babies. That's a problem, because they have who is going to take care of their childcare and other things, and they have learned this lesson from their big sisters that they're struggling with their life. So these are big problems for us.
Well, that echoes with what Natasha has said, isn't it? PC or Chiri or Jong, do you want to make a comment? We've got representatives here from Singapore, South Korea and Taiwan. So,
Yeah, thanks, Claire. I don't think I have much to add after listening to all these experts and presenters, but just to reiterate the point that the toolkit illustrated is that the problems countries are facing are multifactorial, and the solutions are also multi-solution, and not one size fits all. Certain policies may work well in some countries and other policies. But I think it's important to realize that the entire problem of fertility could be looked at as an inverse pyramid. So in the first layer, we have got facing all countries and countries where certain areas are getting urbanized, like what Tung has talked about in Vietnam, the difference between north going down to central and south. In China, when they have urbanized, in Shanghai and Beijing, they're having the same thing, is that the first layer is our young people. Okay, I'm talking about in the context of Asia, where people give birth, have babies wedded in a married family situation. I'm not talking about single moms and single parents. So in the first layer, our young people are not getting married in the first place. Those who are getting married are delaying age of marriage. So people are getting married later and later. Then in the third layers are those fellows who got married and delayed childbearing. The fourth layer is those people who have delayed childbearing and decided to have fewer children. Then the next layer are those people who try to have even fewer children and have difficulty. Now, only this category are people who require the medical treatment. And of those who require medical treatment, only a proportion needs IVF. So you can see the reverse pyramid is as we get down, it gets tougher and tougher, and we are addressing a smaller and smaller population. That's why my comment this morning is that to say that IVF, we can use IVF to reverse the TFR, I think is difficult, because we're only appealing to a very small proportion. The highest impact will be those at the first tier. If we get our people to get married soon, and as soon as they get married, they should have kids, and they should have more than one kid, then I think we can change the TFR. So to do that, therefore, for example, in the toolkit, we have shown that what are the effective measures in terms of economic impact are childcare facilities, workplace changes, then only economics, financial help, And then finally, only medical and assisted reproduction. So that's why you can see the impact as far as the economic impact is the way it reflects the inverse pyramid. Thank you. Jerry, you want to say something?
Thanks, Jerry.
Enjoy all the talks. But Taiwan is a very different situation because now in Taiwan, people get married late. So the average IVF cycles, average age is 38 years old. So now there's a campaign in Taiwan, that's a social freezing. So I suggest maybe all the not married lady, they may before age 35, maybe can entering the social egg freezing. So in Taiwan, the rate of social egg freezing are around 5 to 10%, about the total oocyte pickup. So that is some already draw the public attention when the lady or woman have a physical checkup. They also measure the serum average. So that can you tell you the ovarian reserve. If you are low, extremely low, then you go into the egg freezing program. The other, I think, one of the presenters talk about environmental impact, especially, I would say our growth is very not friendly now because we expose a lot of phthalate. We expose the plastic film, plastic bag, infant oil, that all contain the phthalate. And phthalate is strongly associated with cirrhosis, and that causes infertility. So I think we must protect our environment. This is another factor we have to pay attention to. And then there are 4 major factors, okay? The one is childcare, and the second one is workforce policy, financial burden. But all these 3 factors connected to infertility because late marriage or they are not willing. So until they face the point of which no return, and then we need ART treatment. So although PCC is not the link, but finally the link to the ART treatment. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Well, we're getting very close to the end, and I think what we any more questions or, oh, Natasha, sorry, yes, there is a hand raised. I wasn't quite sure. Do you want to take it down now and we'll let you speak?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to share one quick comment or reply to what has just been said. All of those points that have just been made are incredibly important, and that is why Fertility Counts is not just about IVF. It is really about building family-friendly societies in a more holistic way, because all of these factors interlink, as has just been very eloquently said. I also wanted to circle back to your question about Japan and speak very briefly about what Japan has recently done and what sort of policies they have implemented. So there are 2 big family policies that were changed or that were worked on. One was ART reimbursement that came in about 18 months ago. So that, that was definitely a cornerstone of policy. It may be surprising that Japan didn't have ART reimbursement before. They had a subsidy system, but sort of this reimbursement is far more comprehensive. And secondly, the government has really made an effort on childcare. So they've reduced waiting lists on childcare. This was a very popular effort, and they've really improved the availability of childcare. Now, what they haven't really worked on is some of the underlying factors of low birth rates. And the big one is that people are not getting married at the rates that they used to. The marriage rates are really quite low. And it's connected to other factors. Japan's workplace policies, Japan's workplace is notorious for long work hours, very strict work culture. And secondly, there's the question of gender. Honestly, Japanese women, once they get married, they're expected to take care of their own parents, to take care of their husband's parents, to take care of the children. and in modern society to also work. That's for most women, that's not a very appealing prospect. And so more and more women are choosing consciously to remain unmarried, and children are not being born out of wedlock. So we're really talking about, you know, people only have children in marriage, and if the people are not getting married, then those children are not born. These gender balance issues are very difficult to tackle. It's not impossible to tackle, but it's not a very popular thing to address by policymakers. And so this is one issue that has remained for decades quite intractable in Japan. The one thing the government has done is they've loosened immigration restrictions. That's not a popular policy. Immigration is not popular in Japan, but it's the only thing that they can do right now to plug the holes in their workforce. At the moment, they're requiring women to both have children and to work because they simply do not have the workforce for everything. As that's not possible, and as the workforce declines, they need to have more immigration. And so Japan has chosen to also loosen some of the previous very strict immigration rules. So we could spend, again, another hour talking about Japan, but just to answer your question previously on what has Japan done recently.
It'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. Having said that, Australia has used immigration to prop up its low birth rate. We've been below replacement for 45 years, which I was astounded. I didn't even know that. And so that just shows you the public awareness that we've been living under. It's like living under a rock. But anyway, we're certainly propped up our economy with immigration, but that's now not sustainable because all those other countries that we've had immigrants from have now got populations below replacement or rapidly about to get there. But I think we've had a great session, and I'm really glad to see you back there, Dr. Jakob, because I'm about to close the session, and I'd just like everybody to thank our speakers in the usual manner, and then to come forward to have a photograph with our presenters in the background. So we'll just have to have some good arrangements of people. But can I just ask you to thank our presenters for an absolutely fantastic sharing of dealing with a totally new problem that we have not had to face in humankind.